Hello, Travis Semlinger here again from Progressive Coaching, located in Zurich, Switzerland. And today I have video 2 in the series on limiting beliefs. And this is a good one today because what we're going to do is come at it at a slightly different angle to what we went at it in video 1. And I'm going to explain how beliefs actually come to be. This will really cement your knowledge, and you really can't understand too much about beliefs because they are just that important. If we remember, beliefs are what spawn our automatic thoughts, and potentially hundreds of thousands of automatic thoughts over the period of a lifetime. And we know that our thoughts lead to our emotions, which lead to our behaviors, which lead to our outcomes in life. So at the root of all this is our limiting beliefs, or our beliefs, but the negative form of the belief is the limiting belief. And once a limiting belief is established in our unconscious, it's like an unquestioned command direct to our nervous system. We don't even question the belief. We're not even aware that it's there most of the time. So hugely influential role in our lives are limiting beliefs, and it's not taught to us in school. Once again, such an important topic. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen right now and walk you through the tabletop metaphor. Let's take an example of a limiting belief: people can't be trusted. I'm going to walk you through an example of how this limiting belief can form. So let's say when you are very young, maybe 8 years old, your dad tells you he's going to come and watch your football match, but he gets stuck at work. Your dad has done nothing wrong. He probably did everything he could to get to go to your game, but there was an emergency at work and he was asked to stay back. And he didn't want to lose his job because the family needs to eat. But you don't know all this at such a young age. To you, the meaning that you attach to this event is, Dad broke my trust. He said he would be at my football game and he's not. And you attach emotional intensity to this. You attach the meaning. And this is important, as it's never the events that shape our lives, but the meaning we attach to them. Our beliefs about what those events mean. And what happens is an idea is born. This is represented in the metaphor as a tabletop. Then, let's say a few years later, your best friend lies to you. Maybe you're 10 years old or so. And you find out that your best friend has told other kids at your school bad things about you. He tells all your secrets or something like this. He really betrays your trust. You know what kids can be like. But now what happens? You attach meaning to this event at the time. It is emotional for you. How could your best friend be doing that? What's the result? You form another table leg that props up this idea around people being untrustworthy. And this bolsters the idea. Then, let's say 6 years later, maybe you're 16 or so, and you get your first car, and you saved up for it for 2 years. And then one night, it gets stolen. Boom, another table leg. What kind of a lowlife would do this? Maybe it's that guy who lives down the road. He's always looking at my car. Or maybe it's one of my friends. I have a car and they know that it's easy to start without a key. In any case, the emotional result is another table leg. Then let's say maybe a couple of years later, we're 18 or so, and we have our first serious relationship. And a girl breaks our heart and leaves us for another man. Boom, another table leg. And now what happens is the belief is born. Before, it was an idea, a thought that came and went. But now it is dogmatic, a universal, true in all situations, according to our unconscious. Now, in our future interactions, this deep-seated limiting belief will come into play and influence our automatic thoughts. As our automatic thoughts lead our emotions and behaviors, this limiting belief will play a pivotal role in our future decisions throughout life. And we are not even aware of this. Such is the power of limiting beliefs. How specifically could this play out in your life? Well, because this is an established belief, we believe this in all situations. A mass generalization. So for example, let's say we meet a new potential romantic partner. They are a good person. In actual fact, they are completely trustworthy. But we never trust them fully because of our dogmatic belief that no people can be trusted. This belief affects our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. We don't give our all in the relationship because we are scared of getting hurt. We expect the person to hurt us, to break our trust. Because remember, no people can be trusted. We become suspicious of this person. Maybe we check their phone to see if there are any messages from other guys or girls. We become jealous. And the other person notices this, don't they? And eventually, as with almost all relationships which lack trust, the relationship ends. In actual fact, we self-sabotaged our own happiness and pushed the other person away because of our limiting belief. And then the real tragedy happens because what happens is we say to ourselves, see, she left me. I told you you can't trust people. And we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Another failed relationship, and this adds or bolsters the original limiting belief. This is the trap. And this can happen hundreds of thousands of times over a lifetime. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy, which is limiting beliefs. It's incredible. It's also important to understand the positive intent behind our beliefs. We adopt beliefs because they serve us in some way. From video 1, the elephant believes she can't pull away from the fence post because that belief served her at one time. It prevented pain. It prevented the strain and struggle of failure. Generally, humans hold on to limiting beliefs for the same reasons. We believe that they are protecting us from pain, protecting us from struggle and failure. We develop beliefs like today's example, don't trust anyone, to protect ourselves from getting hurt, to prevent the hurt that we felt in the past. But this is the paradox. This is the trap. Some generalizations serve us. It's how we learn. We understand that all hot stoves can burn us, so we don't touch all hot stoves. That's how our brain works. It makes connections like this, so we don't have to touch all hot stoves and get burnt every time. But many generalizations don't serve us. In fact, they cause us pain. And these are called limiting beliefs. By allowing our autopilot to protect us from getting hurt, by not trusting people, we actually achieve the very thing we are trying to avoid. The metaphor to destroy a limiting belief is to dispute these references that are propping up the belief. To kick the legs out from under the table until the belief crumbles under its own weight. The belief implodes, and then the person is free of the belief. The noose around their neck holding them back in life becomes severed. And it doesn't take years of examining the past, as in many forms of traditional non-directive therapy. In fact, change happens very quickly. How quickly? Well, often instantly. Because change happens the moment that a person associates more pain to that which is holding them back, to that which they want to change, than the perceived pain or effort required to make the change. Once they reach that pain threshold where the behavior that they want to change is just so painful that they just can't stand it anymore, their pain threshold, then the change happens instantly. Most of the time is spent reaching that threshold and then coming back and reaching that threshold. Like when a person is trying to quit smoking. One day they actually quit. There's a beautiful metaphor about this, or a story where a person is trying to quit smoking over and over and over, and they never quit. They've been trying to quit for years, and one day their little daughter looks at them with tears in their eyes and says, "Daddy, please stop killing yourself. I want you to be there at my graduation," with tears running down her face. The man never picks up a cigarette again, because now the pain of smoking, the pain that he can see in his daughter's eyes and in his own mind every time he goes to pick up a cigarette, is more painful than going through the withdrawal symptoms or the effort required to make the change. And I'll talk more about that in the next video. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Much appreciated. If you got any value out of this video at all, please give it a thumbs up and share it so that more people can benefit from this content that is not taught to us in schools. All the best, guys. Cheers.